Hey guys, it's your girl Courtney Camille here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first episode of Momsplaining, where we talk about all things mom and things that we wish we would have known. I have my guest and friend Toya Mims here, founder and CEO of the Wildflower Alliance. How are you doing tonight, Toya?
I'm doing good. So excited to be on
I
Mom's
know.
Planning.
I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being my first guest. It means a lot to me. And let's take this journey.
Let's go.
So, what are you drinking tonight, Toya?
So I have been on my dry wines. I was reading that dry wines are essentially healthier in a sense.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
on dry wine, my Sauvignon Blanc by the
Mhm.
McBride sisters. So I'm excited to be. It's my first time trying it, and
Okay.
pretty good so far.
I love that as well. I love a good dry wine. So, I'm one and the same. Tonight, I have a non alcoholic THC drink that my husband made. I think it's nowadays in a little lime juice, a little cocktail. Take a little sip.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's really good. Tastes like a cocktail, without the guilt.
There you go.
And I think that he got the nowadays from Soberish here in Atlanta. And I love that little store. We have been there a few times. He's been there like probably like 15 times.
Nice.
But let's jump into all things Toya. I want to read our guest about you. So let me jump into it. So Toya Mims is a dedicated advocate, nonprofit leader, and former elite athlete with a passion for empowering families of children with disabilities. A Birmingham, Alabama native, she excelled in basketball and volleyball at Ramsey High School, earning two state championships in basketball and a full volleyball scholarship to Fort Valley State University, where she was also a two-time SIAC MVP and track standout. Come on, Toya. All right. She later earned a Master of Science in Clinical Laboratory Science from UAB and became a certified medical laboratory scientist. I think I said that right. Yes, laboratory.
Laboratory. Yeah.
Laboratory. Okay, laboratory.
Come on, it's okay. That's
I tried.
with the bush.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna keep going. From 2009 to 2021, Latoya served as the assistant head volleyball coach at Ramsey High School, helping lead the team to multiple state tournament appearances. Her faith has always been central, with deep roots at More Than Conquerors Faith Church, where she has served in youth and adult ministries and is currently in ministers training. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
That's dope.
you be prayed for. I got you. I got you.
I love that. Yes. In 2019, I'm learning stuff. That's amazing. I love this. In 2019, she and her husband Henry welcomed their daughter Harper Lee, who was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy and epilepsy. This life-changing experience ignited her advocacy journey, leading her to found the Wildflower Alliance, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting families of children with disabilities. She is actively shaping disability policy through leadership programs, including UAB Lend, Georgetown University's Equity and Early Childhood Intervention Scholars, and Partners in Policymaking Alabama, PIPA. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Latoya's work is driven by her faith, resilience, and commitment to equity, ensuring that all children have access to the resources and support they need to thrive. I love that. It gave me like chills. I love that.
Okay.
So, yes, cheers to you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anything you like to expound upon? Just while we're just like shortly while I just read all of that.
Absolutely. So I think my favorite thing, even though I came from a background of sports, and I learned about myself through motherhood, that I still process things as an athlete. And it's not a bad thing. It could be an opportunity to improve the way that I approach life because, as you know,
Mm.
as an athlete, an elite athlete,
Okay, say it.
I'm used to winning. And so
Yeah,
whenever it
I
feels
know.
like I'm in a situation where I'm not winning, my mind automatically goes into strategy mode to figure out how do I get this dub. Like that's what I'm
I love
about
it.
in life has definitely thrown me some curveballs.
Mhm.
And I think that knowing that about myself has certainly gotten me through the hardest times and
Yeah.
also taught me how to have grace. So it's okay to take
Mhm.
a L
It
because
is. Yeah.
learn. And so I think I really love like talking about that. And then my most favorite thing is here recently all of the leadership programs that I'm a part of, and just some of the things that I'm learning about the history of individuals with disabilities. So
Mhm.
I love every program that I'm in. It sounds like I'm super busy. I am.
Yeah.
But it's a good busy. It's a fun busy. It's a passionate busy. So it does not feel like busy. And so I'm just so grateful that I have the opportunity. Life has put me in a position where I can be in these programs to absorb all this knowledge, all this
Mhm.
information, so then I can pass it on as wisdom to other people
Right.
who have the heart, an open heart to learn and embrace something that they're not familiar with. So,
I love all of this. And I love what you said. Like, I haven't even really thought about life like that or like your foundation, but you being like an elite athlete and how you process things. I really, really like the way that you put that. So, and I can see it in you, like being friends with you and the way you
mhm.
put that, I was like, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. But I'm sure being an elite athlete has really, really helped you and I can, your strength and yeah, I can see it all. So that's dope. That's super,
Yeah,
super dope. Well, just love that talk. That was beautiful. But now it's time to momsplain.
let's do it.
So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'll kind of go through. So we're gonna momsplain first. We're gonna talk about pregnancy. We're gonna talk about postpartum, mom life, and self. We're gonna talk about Miss Toya Mims. So let me jump right into it.
Okay.
First question is, did you know you always wanted to be a mom?
Absolutely not. I did not want to be a mom. I,
Oh,
I will say that I had dreams that was like the typical, yeah, I want to have kids one day, but there was no thought behind that. There
mhm,
was just, that's what's supposed to happen in life, and it was never something that I actually planned out because when I became of age and really started to understand and see my life starting to fall in place for these things to happen, I did not want to jump into motherhood. That was one thing
mhm.
that I made sure that I was I was very avoidant. But I won't, and I don't. I hope that people don't take that in a negative sense. My
It's not.
background is that I'm the oldest of six kids. The oldest. My mom had me when she was 18 years old. So
Okay.
I was able to. I essentially watched my parents grow up, and I also watched siblings grow up. I watched my parents grow up, I'll say like indirectly. You know how if
Yeah.
you are a child of a young parent, you don't know that your parent is young. Um,
Right.
but over time, when other siblings started to be introduced into the picture, the level of responsibility that was given to me, I just, I took it because I didn't have a choice. But
Mhm.
once I got a taste of freedom, oh no, I was not ready to rush back into a situation where I was tied down because that's
Understandable.
like I had a lot of experiences in my childhood or from my childhood where I discovered that that feeling of being tied down
Mhm.
essentially is what drove me away from wanting to jump into motherhood. Um,
Yeah.
I was 6 years into my marriage before I became a mom, so I definitely put it off as long as I could. And then when I got up in age, and again, having a medical background, understanding that the
Hmm.
older you get, the harder it becomes, the more you're at risk, the more your baby's at risk, then is when, and that was literally then and only then, did I start to consider getting more serious about
Yeah.
trying to start a family. But no, ma'am. I did not want to be a mom. It's like I said, I turned 18, got to college, and was like, oh, I ain't having
Mm.
nobody, baby, you know. And then to add that layer of I never wanted to be a mom, baby mom. No disrespect to
Yeah. No, yeah.
you. If that was your situation, I have high regards for anybody in that situation. You are stronger than me. You are stronger than you know. You are literally carrying the world on your
Say it.
you know.
Yeah.
I was, brought up in church, and don't have babies before you get married was a thing. And then again, a taste of that freedom, and I was like, oh, I definitely ain't having no baby if you ain't committed
Right.
yourself to me. And that's how I put it for me. But I definitely avoided as much as I could. I did everything I could. I never, had to do anything extreme to avoid
Mhm.
motherhood, but I definitely was not that.
Yeah. Not thinking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Living. I
Right.
understand. Okay. Let's see. Let's jump into talk about your kiddos. How many kids do you have? And tell me about them.
I have two tiny terrorists. That's what I call them. These babies run me, okay? I have a daughter, Harper, who is
Hmm.
5 years old, about to be 6 in a couple of weeks. And then I have Mason, who is 1, getting ready to turn 2 in May.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I feel like Mason was
Just born. Yeah, and we're already
crazy.
coming up on
Two? He's gonna be two?
2. 2.
Aw, okay. And Harper's gonna be six. Is like, when's
Yes,
her birthday?
March 6th.
Okay. Well, she's a Pisces. Like
Mm-mm.
me. She's Pisces. Right. Tell me more about them, like individually, their personalities, what they like, just about Harper and Mason.
So when people tell you that there's night and day between a boy and a girl, there absolutely is. But then
Hmm.
also, as siblings, they are so much alike. It is ridiculous. So Harper is more of your independent woman, sassy, want my way. I am
Yeah.
literally, I'm not a princess, I'm a queen, sweetie. Like
Okay.
Harper, when I say I want something, I expect you to get up and go get it right then and there.
Now.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then you have Mason, who is a full blown comedian. That
Oh,
is the funniest child I have ever seen. His personality is huge.
yeah.
He is literally here to bring the fun, the light, and the joy, especially
Oh,
in the hard times. That boy is, and he adores Harper. So they're night and day in the sense
yeah.
that Harper's a girl, very prissy, very chill, very calm,
Hmm.
cool, collected. And then you have Mason, who is climbing up, jumping off of things. Like, you're 1. How did you even learn how to climb,
It's
sir?
innate. It's inside of them.
Right. Where did this come from? And
Yeah.
it just turned on one day. And so their personalities is but again, the commonalities, both are extremely smart. If you tell Harper
Mhm.
something, she expects you to do that. And if you deviate from that, we have a problem. And the same thing with Mason. Mason is like, okay, you told me that I could have that. Can I have it now? So I
Okay.
love that you can see the commonalities, but they are definitely night and day.
Gotcha. Okay. With that, I'm interested in. I know we're talking about like single moms before, and like you said, we know they're carrying the weight of the world. So I'm just curious to ask, like, what is the structure of your household? How do you and Henry parent? Kind of how like 50-50, six, what is how does it go in your household?
It's different any given day. In our marriage, we show up for each other. Period. If you ain't,
Yeah.
I got it today. If we both ain't got it, then let them kids fend for themselves. Like we are definitely the married couple, but I won't put the label of 50-50 on us. I won't also put the label, definitely will not put the label of traditional on us, because we're definitely not that. I don't believe in gender roles. He does not
Hmm.
believe in gender roles. Our marriage is what we want our marriage to be for each other, and we raise our kids the way that we choose to raise our kids, which is together. Um,
Hmm.
of course, there are definitely disagreements, but the ultimate agreement between us is not to agree to disagree, but really more so to work to find the common ground, because
Right.
there's always a common ground between the two of us. We wouldn't be here, we wouldn't have gotten this far if there was not. And so that commitment to making sure that the children are taken care of, that we are taken care of individually and then as a whole. We're going to always work to make sure that everyone is taken care of, because that's what we
Mm.
chose to do. And
Next up, we're going to talk about pregnancy.
okay.
Okay, so first question, how were your pregnancies?
Okay, so pregnancy was not hard. Pregnancy was very typical, I'll say, for me. The journey was a very smooth one. I wasn't sick all the time. But did I enjoy being pregnant? Absolutely not. No, I did not. If I had to choose to be pregnant, I would not have done it. That's why God surprised me both times.
Sure.
Because I don't know, I just didn't like, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like, I couldn't have my alcohol anymore. And I was a party girl, so
Yeah, same.
eat what I wanted to eat anymore. I loved hot dogs. I probably this year, probably like a couple of weeks ago, was my first time in years having like hot dogs.
Yeah.
You have to cut out so many process.
Mhm.
It makes you really evaluate, which is a
Right.
good thing in the sense you should be eating that way anyway. But just being limited and
Mhm.
like, because and not because I had to do what was best for my baby, but I wanted to give them the best at the same time.
Right.
But in doing so means that I have to restrict myself from things
Mhm.
that I never had to think about before. So I didn't
Mhm.
enjoy that. I was very uncomfortable sleeping. That's one thing that people don't talk about as often. They make it seem like, oh, it's at the end of the pregnancy when you get uncomfortable. You are
Right.
uncomfortable from the time that belly starts growing.
Agreed.
I just could not get comfortable. I had to use pregnancy pillows both times. The second time, whatever these hormones are that you get hot at night, did not
Hmm.
bother me. I am hot to this day. Like, I get so hot, So pregnancy was very smooth. But I did enjoy eating as much and gaining weight. I've always been a pretty slim person in my life, and I played sports for so long, so
Hmm.
my body has. I've never just gained weight. The most that I weighed before I got pregnant, with the highest I got was like 135, right?
Yeah,
And so, like, gaining weight, um, it didn't happen as rapidly, so that was a good thing, because that means that
that is a good thing.
my legs weren't hurting, my knees, my shins, and stuff that people
Yeah.
typically go through. But my second pregnancy, I did develop plantar fasciitis because of the weight gain.
Okay.
I gained probably up to like 40 pounds, for both pregnancies. I didn't think I hit 180. I could have, but I did enjoy eating a lot more,
Yeah.
and it not being something that was detrimental to my health. Pregnancy was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun. Again, from the eating aspect, but everything else you can have it. I didn't like being uncomfortable. People were much nicer, but I didn't care. I don't care. I coped
Yeah.
for myself. I glowed during my pregnancy with Mason.
Hmm.
That I am a believer when they say the girls tear your skin up. I am a believe the things that happen to my skin, and I've always been someone who struggled with acne my entire.
Hmm.
And so I just was devastated because I had worked so hard on my skin before I got pregnant, and then I got
Hmm.
pregnant. It was like
Yeah.
All the work had gone, and I was devastated. I had to take amoxicillin my entire pregnancy because you cannot even use facial washes with acne medicines in them. Like salicylic
Gotcha.
acid is dangerous,
Mm.
and so salicylic acid I was like, please, doctor, man,
Please.
please give me, and he was just like, if you want to take the risk. And I was like, nah, I ain't gonna
Yeah.
do it. But she tore my skin up. And then after I stopped breastfeeding, so that's another thing that people don't tell you is the hormone changes that breastfeeding brings. So in
Mm.
addition to your pregnancy hormones, your body has to make hormones to produce your milk. And
Yeah.
I um I could see the changes in my skin from breastfeeding. But when I stopped breastfeeding, this is one thing I haven't found the courage to share that testimony, that journey of my skin. My
Hmm.
face was swollen. I mean, I almost looked disfigured. Okay, I remember for Mother's Day, it was my second Mother's Day with Harper, but because I had stopped breastfeeding, my skin
Hmm.
reacted to my hormones going back.
Yeah, changing.
All those hormone changes, what I hated my skin because it's almost like it tells everybody that something's going on internally with me. So
Yeah.
you always see when my hormones are changed, but my face it looked like, I can't even describe it. I felt the ugliest in my life, and I was so glad
Mhm.
that COVID had hit at that time because I cannot imagine
Yeah.
going to work looking like how I was looking. I'll share those pictures with you offline, but I cannot. But
Yeah.
that was the worst part of the journey for me. And then I had to get on Accutane. Like that's how bad it was. In my
Mm.
30s, I'm on Accutane, and that Accutane made me look like I could have been on a magazine. I was
Look.
so happy, and then I got,
Yeah.
and then it started over. I
Mm.
was like, what? So there were my those were my biggest insecurities. I'll say during pregnancy was it was the struggle that I had with hormonal acne.
Hmm.
That was the absolute worst because it was the thing that made me the most self conscious, and because of that, I don't have a lot of pictures from Harper's
Oh.
pregnancy. But then when Mason came,
Yeah.
I glowed.
Right.
I had never glowed, and I had finally experienced that glow that people say that you get during pregnancy. I felt
Hmm.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
was like hitting on myself, like, dang
You
girl,
look good.
So I really enjoyed that. That was the pregnancy. My second pregnancy is where I felt most beautiful.
But I went through the same. I had no glow with Muse. I mean, she took it all.
Yeah, yeah.
She took every bit of. I mean, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, obviously, I'm not like hideous, but I was like, where's the glow that I had? And I gained more weight. My skin was like gray. Like it just was like
Oh, yes.
just droop, like everything, like she sucked it all. But
Yeah.
she's beautiful. Harper's beautiful, so
And that's what they say.
I
That's what
took it.
they're saying is that they suck the glow out of
Mhm.
you
Right on.
because of how cute they're gonna be. So I was like, well, in that case, I'll go through it just to make sure I got a cute little girl.
It. I feel like postpartum, that's the thing we're going to talk about. I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that really became a topic of discussion. Maybe I'm not going to give it a year because I can't think right now, but I feel like it wasn't always a topic that was in the forefront. Like
Hmm.
when we were growing up, I didn't really hear. I didn't hear the word postpartum. I didn't know things happened after women, after pregnancy, this, that, and the third. So first, I want to essentially define postpartum from you, from me. We could talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the postpartum talk
Hmm.
because of the awareness that it brings and
Right.
how different it looks for everybody, but it's ultimately the same. I agree with you. I do feel like postpartum was not talked about as much when we were growing up, but being in the healthcare field, I feel like there was an explosion of postpartum talk, not in detail, but there was still talk of excuse me, postpartum depression. because mental health became a topic of discussion.
Same.
So
Yeah.
once that mental health started to be embraced, then postpartum became embraced. Because I remember before having Harper, going on the internet and seeing debates from stupid people about how women need to stop complaining about, this, that,
Hmm.
and the other. My mom never complained. And it's
Exactly.
like, but an intelligent person will say, well, let me ask my mom, did she feel like this? And, did she not complain because she felt like she had no outlet?
Right.
Whereas now we have outlets. We
Hmm.
are aware of what postpartum is. We are aware of the fact that it's a real thing. So for me, postpartum depression is, or just postpartum, the journey of
Right.
once you give birth to the baby, and even before that, when your hormones start changing to prepare your body to give birth, that's when,
Hmm.
you really start to feel um, the different feelings. And
Right.
I have come to understand that it starts before you even, some people have, is it prepartum? I think it's the correct term for it, but you can have depression at the point you get pregnant.
I would I
So
would love to learn about that. See, those are the things that we need to discuss and be informed about.
absolutely, you can have depression during your pregnancy and after your pregnancy,
Hmm.
and then the postpartum depression could go as far as years after the baby is born.
Right.
Um, and so I did start to try to take a deeper dive into what postpartum truly looks like, what it means, and then you start to hear more. Once you start to hear more stories
Hmm.
about people's experiences, because we'll never advance as a society until people
Right.
start to tell their story, until we get out of this
Being
whole,
open.
yeah, I don't want people in my business. And it's,
Yeah.
I'm not in your business if you're telling about an experience that I could relate to, and
Hmm.
it's
Help you.
life. Yeah. So
Exactly.
for me, postpartum is something that I acknowledge. It's real. It can be very debilitating for someone
Hmm.
who's experiencing a more extreme or severe case. Hell, you can have a mild case of it, and it can be debilitating for you, but it's not as
Right.
debilitating for me. I can still navigate. Maybe you can't. I
Right.
respect people's journeys and understand that we're all different, and these hormones show up different
Yes,
because
they do.
my skin was looking. I'm telling you, I believe these hormones are something powerful, so
Mhm.
powerful that the smallest change in them could change everything
Yeah.
for the person. And
But
so,
but just like how you're saying with your skin, like I literally lost probably 60% of my hair, like
mhm,
gone.
see, yeah, and
Fell
all
out.
hormones. It's hormones.
Yeah, it's different. Different thing. You have your body has a different reaction, different hormones, different things going on. Everybody has a different walk of pregnancy, postpartum. And then, based off of what you were saying, someone could have a super severe case, someone could have a mild case. I mean, I'm also sure, yes, everyone or every woman has a postpartum journey because
Because you gave
definitively,
birth, period.
yeah, definitively it's, after birth,
Hmm.
postpartum after birth. So everyone has a story, everyone has a journey. You might have postpartum depression, you might have postpartum anxiety, you might just be postpartum.
Hmm.
You're dealing with your children, your schedule's changed. You're now looking at a whole human that's outside of your body that now used to be inside of your body. And I think that in and of itself, just that little thing about there is a human being that was inside and outside, I think that can mentally it's a process. It is a mental process that I think really needs to be spoken about more. I mean, how wild is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And then think
It's
about it, you got to keep them alive. It was
and
easy.
you have to keep them alive.
It was easy to keep them alive inside. All I had to do was
Exactly.
take care of myself. But now I have to take care of myself and
Exactly.
you, and you're smaller and you can't tell me things,
That
and I have to
right.
do it for you. So
And you're
I'm just,
terrified and you're putting your finger up on their nose, make sure they're breathing. Like it is a
yeah.
a
And
whole thing.
absolutely. I love the way that you describe postpartum as, It's the fact that it's the journey that starts once the baby gets into
Hmm.
the world.
Right.
Because even if you might say, I didn't have postpartum anxiety, depression, nothing, but you still had a postpartum journey because just like you said, all the changes in your life happened once that baby arrived.
Hmm.
You started questioning yourself, whether you want to admit it or not. You
Yeah.
truly question yourself. Am I capable of this? How do I do this? Oh, they're not doing it the way that I would do it. So now I got to react and I got to, that journey that is still a part of a postpartum journey.
Yeah.
You don't, postpartum, doesn't, it's not a negative thing. Everybody's journey is going to be different. So whether you
Right.
develop anxiety, depression, or you're still developing,
Joy or
yeah, you're
yeah.
developing a new way of life. And
Hmm.
that is definitely, I love that you put it just like that. It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yeah. It's a journey for every single woman that births a child. Okay, so what's something about your postpartum recovery that you were surprised about?
I was honestly surprised that I developed anxiety.
Mm.
I've never struggled with anxiety. Now, everybody experiences anxiety in life, period, right? So,
Hmm.
like I said, I learned that the way that I process life is through the eyes of an athlete.
Right.
And if you truly look at that in the eyes of an athlete, you still experience anxiety before a game.
Right.
In the game, you still have a level of anxiety, but you have control over that anxiety.
Hmm.
I developed a level of anxiety that I didn't even know I was not in control of and that I was living in, and it was impacting my life, and I had no idea
Yeah.
that something was going on and that there was a label for it. And so I was living in a space where I couldn't describe what I was feeling.
Hmm.
Um, and all it was anxiety, because I was questioning, am I doing this right? Is this going to be
Yeah.
right? Is and
Hmm.
that is what, it showed up in my marriage. And that's when I decided I needed to go get help
Yeah.
because I was acting so out of character and I didn't know I was acting out of character. Everybody knows that I love to like do fun stuff for my husband, right? Like
Yeah.
I love to plan little things. Like I love to go out of my way and make something cute,
Hmm.
I was very much the girl who was on Pinterest and then trying to figure out a way. I was very much so the girl who did a whole Valentine's Day scavenger hunt, built a
Yeah.
scavenger hunt in our house for Henry to like come walk home into and do a scavenger hunt for Valentine's.
Hmm.
I was that person before I had a baby. After I had that baby, I was like, he might like this, and I went into that rabbit hole. No, because we really don't like the same thing, and having that conversation in my head
Yeah.
without realizing that that's going on. And then Father's Day, his first Father's Day, this is when I was like, okay, I gotta go get some help because I didn't even know that I was in this space. But
Hmm.
fumbled his first Father's Day so hard. I bought him nothing. I gave him no car. I did nothing sentimental. And he was so crushed by that. And he was like,
Oh.
I mean, she could have, you could, he told one of my friends, like, she could have at least gotten me a card. And that broke me because I
Oh.
was like, damn, like, I was so far into this rabbit hole of, because I started planning his Father's Day during Mother's Day.
Hmm.
And how did I get to Father's Day and not even have a car?
Yeah.
That was so out of character. And I think that's why he was so crushed because he didn't understand how I could, fumble something so huge when he's been so celebrated our
Right.
entire relationship without asking. He's never asked to be celebrated. It was just my opportunity to show somebody I
Yeah.
love him. So I went out of my way. I went all out. And his first Father's Day, and that's when I said, so when we had that conversation, he was like, I mean, he said, just why? And I was like, you weren't going to like any of it. He was like, tell me what you had. And I told him, and he was like, what makes you think? And I was like, well, you didn't like it when I did something, something, something. And it was something so small that,
Yeah.
like, I told you, like, no, I didn't want no salt on this. And that turned into all of this. And I was like, yeah, he was like, yeah, we
In
got
your head.
in my head because I never said any of it out loud. I never talked to anybody else about it. I never said, give me an idea. I nothing. I just and I was like, okay, we gotta figure out what is happening.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I look back, that was also during the same time that we probably were starting to notice some things about Harper,
Yeah.
and we were struggling with the daycares that we were in. So
Hmm.
I was having literal heart. I'll never forget being at work and my heart beating so hard and so fast, about me leaving my child in a situation that
Hmm.
I truly did not want to leave her in because something
Yeah.
was not right. And so it was just a whole bunch that I was battling mentally and had no idea. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what postpartum looks like. I didn't know that's what it feels like. I thought you were crying and not
Right.
get out of bed and, having a hard time breastfeeding and, all the factors, that would lead to that. I just knew that that's what it was when with me it was just really, just the anxiety of being a mom and
Hmm.
going back to work and second guessing myself. And I was in a really uncomfortable situation, with the daycares that she was in. They were
Yeah.
not equipped to handle a child with developmental disabilities, which at that
Hmm.
point we didn't know she had developmental disabilities. But
Right.
what we did know is that my child was struggling.
Hmm.
I couldn't battle that. I could not push away that feeling. And trying to push away that feeling by continuing an 8 to 9 hour work day and, other things
Yeah.
happening. There was just a lot that was happening, that when I look back, it's like, oh, maybe that's what was happening. But,
Yeah. I definitely experienced postpartum anxiety with the first one, but not the second one
right.
because definitely believe in therapy and it helped.
I didn't go to a formal like counseling or therapy session,
Hmm.
because the tools that I had gotten from my initial, excuse me, like sessions, I used them. I knew
Yeah.
exactly, I knew what the feeling was. I knew what to look
Hmm.
for, but that's not to say that that may be the same experience for everybody else. For us, we was like, okay, I know what to look for. So,
Hmm.
it's like I want to try to treat it. I want to try to, so that awareness is what I feel like helps with, preventing it from getting any worse. But also, I can't speak from experience, and I won't speak from, on behalf of someone who may have a different story. I think
Hmm.
we can relate on the fact that, okay, I know what happened the first time.
Right.
I'm ready. Like, let's go second time around. And I'll say that, if I'm being honest with myself, it probably just kind of hit me later. I feel like the postpartum anxiety did come, uh,
Hmm.
for my second pregnancy because I did have some other life changes that happened that was way like it was like, okay,
Yeah.
this one could actually send me into full blown depression, but I
Right.
navigated that space so well that I stopped, with my techniques and tools. And when I
Hmm.
stopped those, so it was after he turned a year that I
Okay.
started to see the repeat of the anxiety showing up. And I, er, I'll say a younger version of myself would say, this can't be it because he's a year old now. You're done with
Right.
postpartum. When really postpartum goes, I want to say they say it could go up to like 3 or 4 years,
Right.
even
Oh
go
wow.
for some people. But I had to like step back and say, girl, this is still postpartum.
And it's
Like
okay.
it's okay.
Right.
Try, but acknowledge it. It's
Hmm.
here. Embrace it so that you can start to heal and get better.
Right.
So I'll say that while I planned for it, just like you did, I did the same thing where I was like, all right, cool. Like I know what
Mhm.
what what could come.
Yeah.
So I don't feel the same way I felt in my last pregnancy. But then I got hit with a whole bunch of life changes that
Hmm.
so unexpected, so like detrimental. Like I'm telling you, I was just like, this is too much. And then we still had to deal with some of the things that were going on with Harper and her health.
Hmm.
It was a lot. So, but
Yeah.
again, I was like, all right, it's a lot going on. Like, you gotta
Hmm.
make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yourself.
Make sure
Yeah.
you're doing the things that could like make you feel better. And have some downtime. Whatever.
Hmm.
I was making sure I did that, but I definitely slacked up on it, and it came like a rushing wind. It hit me, but I was not being honest with myself as well.
Hmm.
I was like, there's no way that this is what it is. I'm truly angry, or I'm truly
Yeah.
that, and I had to sit with those feelings and go back and be like, oh, okay.
And I will say, once you, and this is what, even doing this, speaking out about motherhood, postpartum journeys, I think if you have some ideas, some inkling, some understanding, um, some information,
Mm-hmm.
you can process things way better. Because even now, like if I get anxious or if you have the tools,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as scary. It's like, okay, all right, this is what this is. And you don't want to go through it, but you can, and it's not as like scary. Now, going through it the first time, the first pregnancy, it was like, oh my God, like
Right.
it was crippling because you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. You don't know why you're feeling this way. So even I would just use my experiences going to therapy after the first one. It was like, oh, okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, nothing is like, I'm okay.
Right.
Everything is okay. This is okay. Like,
Yes.
so that helped. And then being prepared, even just knowing like what to look for, like you said, what to look for, and you said that it came for you after your second pregnancy a year later, you still knew you had tools. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was a softer blow. But I think, with all this awareness, hopefully it helps mothers on their, whether it's first, second, third journey, particularly the first one, like if we can help women know,
For sure.
what to expect, you are okay. Like, and not to feel bad, not to be fearful or as fearful,
Right.
just be better,
Absolutely.
for
And
those coming
like
after us.
speaking out and bringing awareness so that whoever sees this, wherever they are in whatever corner of the world, is like, oh, I know what she's talking about.
Mhm.
I felt like that. And
Right.
it's okay that I feel like this. And even if you don't want to speak out in your own space or in your own life, use
Hmm.
the tools, journal,
Right.
meditate, breathe,
Hmm.
like take a walk,
Right.
something to like help you clear your space and have some
Hmm.
time with yourself. And no matter how loud those thoughts are, let them be loud. Let them be loud because they won't stay loud. But you gotta let them. You gotta like acknowledge them and
And
try to.
I would even say, like you're saying, self care. I did not realize how important that is to take care of yourself. And I think, thinking about a first pregnancy, you're
Mm,
not doing that. That's the last thing you're thinking about. You're trying
right.
to take care of your child. If you have a partner, you're trying to take care of them. Like it's all about like let's make this work. Everything needs to be okay. Like so you're not really thinking about let me draw myself a bath, let me
Yeah.
journal this over here, let me go on a walk. You're this is you.
Yeah.
Like thinking
Absolutely.
about,
How
your
do I
child.
take care of this baby? How do I keep this baby alive?
Mhm.
Period.
Yeah. So I learned like self-care is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
The same way as taking care of a child,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of family, taking care of your husband or partner,
Mm-hmm.
that taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dang, there's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, moms, we have to remember that we're worth it
Right.
and take care of ourselves. it's like a thing. Like you have to actually put forth effort, like a relationship with yourself to take care of yourself. So you're pregnant, you have your postpartum journey, and after that is your journey into motherhood. So my first question about mom life is how has becoming a mom changed you?
Advocacy. I think that that is the biggest piece of or characteristic that comes out of any of us.
Mm-hmm.
Being the oldest of six, I was always definitely just it was ingrained in my nature to be protective, to
Right.
I was responsible for. But when my own came here, there was never a time where I would look back and say I could have spoke up
Right.
better or more or did something different. There literally is only one time in my entire motherhood that I look back on and I'm like I should have did this different. And what the
Mm-hmm.
only thing and that's violence. I'm like that's literally it. I advocated for her in a calm and peaceful way, but that's not what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. You know,
It's not
I
what you wanted to do.
I want to let my husband loose. I should have let him loose. That's literally the only regret. But there has never been a time where I've not advocated for those children,
Right.
not had a second thought about it. But that advocacy has also taught me how to advocate for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, again, the life changes that I was speaking about earlier, I was laid off. I got laid off unfairly and I spoke up. And I spoke up and found out that it was, what did the movie, if you've ever seen the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx,
Mm-hmm.
one of the gems that his mom delivers is scratch a lie, find a thief. I live by that to this day. I saw that movie when I was in college.
Yes.
I heard her say that. And I never understood what it meant. But today, I'm like,
Mm.
nah, something ain't right, and I'm gonna scratch it. And
Yeah.
I scratched it off. I found
Yeah.
the thief, and
Oh,
so that
intuition.
is something that has stuck with me, and becoming an advocate for children,
Mm-hmm.
then also having a husband who forces you to pour back into yourself, you learn how to advocate, apply that same nature to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke up for myself, and I ultimately won in that situation, because I spoke up for myself. But
Right. You have to.
there are many times I look back over my entire career from college to the workforce where I'm like, I didn't speak up.
I
I
know.
didn't say this. I didn't do that. I just skated by. I just was like, let me just get on to the next thing. But now I'm advocating for myself and I'm demanding what is rightfully mine. I'm demanding what I'm entitled to. I'm demanding, fair treatment. Like I am entitled
Do
to
it.
fair treatment. I'm entitled to my rights,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that has made me fearless. I have seen a level of fearless that I thought I was, but I really wasn't until I got these kids.
Right.
And so I've changed in so many ways that I'm more confident, um,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't care. Because the one
Mm-hmm.
thing I'm not gonna be wrong about is these kids because they're
Right.
mine, and you can never challenge me on what I think is
Because you know it's right.
for my kids.
Right.
May not be right for your kids, but over here, this is
Yes.
for me. And you could challenge me on that all you want to, and you can try to, dumb it down or say
Mm-hmm.
why it doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't matter. These are my babies.
Right.
And so that has definitely been a level of change that I acknowledge, salute in
I
myself.
love the way you just put all of that.
Yeah.
It really was like, like I felt it. I was like,
Yeah.
thinking about, and I think that's what's going to be so good is that, talking about this is it might not be this, people might not have, or viewers might not have the same experience,
Hmm.
but they can resonate it with their
Exactly.
experience.
They can find like moments in their lives where it's like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Because I mean, you even put like defined it with advocacy, and I'm like, that's literally the word. That is,
That,
thank you, because that's literally what I do, what what we do.
yeah.
So I really, really appreciate that. And then I was gonna say, and just to like kind of add in is like my intuition. I think you what was it, the phrase that you said? That's basically what it is.
Scratch a lie, find a thief.
Yeah, it's your intuition. It's like I know I need to scratch this because
Yeah.
something is telling me.
Exact- And you know that intuition intensifies when you have kids because
Yeah.
women have intuition.
Hmm.
We have intuition that we ignore, you know, and then when we get realigned with that intuition, but with children, you ain't never gonna come out of that intuition. You're
No,
never
it's there for life.
it's there. You're never your instincts will never lead you astray.
They
With
won't.
men, but with children, you are never going to step outside of that. And
Hmm.
that's what I appreciate about motherhood is because that's where my confidence has come from. And if if I can have this level of confidence in what I know for my children, I can also have that same level of
For
confidence for
myself.
myself. For sure.
Yep, totally agree. Let's see. What are some things that you think you could do better? Now, it doesn't have to be something, but what is something that you think?
Hmm. Let me see. I'll talk about all this confidence that I got.
That's it. Don't it really does not have to be anything because
Well, I don't believe that I'm perfect. That's one
right.
thing that I will never believe. I always believe there's an opportunity for growth somewhere.
Hmm.
And so I can improve on, I'm gonna lead us right into it, self care. Because don't matter how much you think you're giving yourself the self care,
Hmm.
the husbands are saying, "Hey, baby, you need to go." You like, "All right, I go take a bath. I had
Right.
some time. That's it." When you probably really need more than that.
Hmm.
I am not great at self care. I'm not.
Yeah.
Still struggle with my children being away from me. I still struggle with. I still struggle. Um, Self care is definitely something that is just
Yeah.
not. Um, I try to make it a priority. It's just not a
Yeah.
priority for me. It's not because I have this level of let me just get through it. What do they
Hmm.
need?
Get through the day.
Yeah, if I get to sleep, okay,
You
cool.
want to go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that's enough for me, but that's not self care because I'm not dedicating time to myself and to like resetting
Right.
so that I can be my best version of myself. But I definitely know that I can improve there. Another place I think I can improve is acknowledging my feelings. Now you know this as my friend,
Right.
but what people might, people look at me and see strength. They see, whatever, whatever. I am not the best with feelings. My
Hmm.
feelings. Your feelings, you bring them to me. I'm going to embrace them all day.
Right.
Talk to you. I'm going to comfort you.
Yeah.
Me and what I'm feeling and feelings.
Hmm.
Nah. I'm not even.
She said, nah, nah.
Not, I was even having a talk with my friend today where I feel like sometimes when I go to therapy, it feels like I'm just talking to my homegirl because like she ain't offering me no tools. Like, girl, you need to do okay. I want you to try it. Like, I'm not walking away from therapy sessions where they're like, all right, baby, you probably need to pop this pill. Like it's not that. So I'm thinking, well, damn. But I was having a conversation with a friend today, and she's like, yeah, because it has been said that when you have a very, like, you're very self aware of yourself and you can process things and
Come
you
on.
hold yourself accountable and you can do all the things, it still don't mean that you're doing the work of the feelings. So your next level is probably to start feeling. And I was like, talk to you later. Yeah. So like feelings is definitely, but if I'm honest about like the root of it, it's in my childhood.
I was gonna ask.
I was definitely never allowed to feel. And let me tell you, I'm not saying I was not allowed to feel. I'm saying
You
that you better shut that crying up. That's feelings that you shutting up from these kids. So like with my kids, I try to do.
you were the adult.
I was, but I exactly, and I was never. But my younger sisters don't have that same experience. They are
Yeah.
very emotional creatures, and I don't understand it. Like I'm like, how did y'all even get like this? But it's because I watched my parents grow up, so I'm bringing it back to I grew up with the young kids, the kids.
Hmm.
I got the adult parents
You
who,
were in the middle because adults they can hide their feelings, but they're gonna go feel them.
yeah, yeah.
But you were younger, so all you were seemingly, is what I'm hearing, you were like just told to not have any feelings. So you didn't know that you could go in your room and like cry and whatever,
And
whatever.
it was like
You
you
just
better
like
not, and I better
right,
not come and see you crying.
right.
So and as a child, that's what you feel first is
Right.
tears, the sadness, and
Mm-hmm.
then also here in my motherhood, I want to be very intentional about giving them their words.
Mm-hmm.
You feel sad? Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
frustrated? Are you feeling really angry? And that's why you're crying, and helping
Right.
them to process that not all tears are the same. Definitely never had that. I can
Right.
1000% say I never had that. And so it's just not, I just am doing the work. I'll say research. Because I ain't doing the work. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not doing the work. I am not out here feeling. But
I'm
I am
so weak.
acknowledging that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to cut that off for my children, and I don't want them to grow up to be feeling like how I feel as an adult. I want them
Mm-hmm.
to feel their feelings and also be able to express what they're feeling so that they can put into words, how they're feeling and communicate, be great communicators.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, you said some good stuff. I think one thing that resonated with me was you saying that, and I was listening. I was like, "Oh, this is good." When you were saying that your therapist wasn't necessarily giving you like tools, homework, like you need to go do this, 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 and this. That you're so self-aware that basically all you need to do is start feeling.
hmm
That's your case, because I'll say for me, I mean I feel everything. I am
hmm
emotional. I'm emotional every day. I live in my feelings. That's where I live, in my feelings, which is not always the best thing, but that's what I do. But it definitely, and I feel like a lot of people will say like, my therapist isn't doing this, 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 and this. My therapist isn't, you know, giving me homework. This, like, what are we doing? And
hmm
you said something, you were like, I talk to my therapist like she's my homegirl. And that's exactly what I do. But I think what we have to realize is that is the therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is it. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I believe and I know that they're trained to and they're educated to, they are working on you
Yeah, they're pulling it
in
out.
in the conversation. You might not know, but you are they are doing their job essentially.
It's
And
good
I think
to feel like that.
for you, for me, I'm super self-aware because she'd be like, okay, so like my past therapist, she was like, you're doing it for yourself. Like I don't even what do you need me for? But I think that to have a therapist, one, and I would say for me, I like to I have like a certain demographic. Like, you can go find the type or, type of therapist that you want to see,
hmm
whoever that is for you. But I think that's a bit of advice that I would give is to find someone that you want to talk to.
Right.
Not necessarily like, look up a therapist and here we go. But age, ethnicity, all of those things, that gender, I feel like they play a role. And I think that that turns into you talking to them like they're your homegirl or your homeboy. You're able to completely open up,
Yeah. Very true.
but yet you can still talk to them like they're
hmm
homeboy, homegirl. So I think that's super dope. But that's definitely something that resonated with me. Like, Yeah, you're super self-aware. You just need to start feeling. But I would say you're not having, everyone is needed. Everyone the way that they are.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm sure you could feel more, but the way in which you are works well with, everybody else. Like I said, I'm always in my feelings. And so,
Hmm.
it balances out for
Yeah,
sure.
because like I said, you can give me your feelings all day, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna embrace you, help you through it. Oh, I
Hmm.
got you, and make you feel even more comfortable to share. I can for sure
Hmm.
do that,
And
but
that's your blessing to others for sure. Um, I think, yeah, that was all I had on that, but that was good. My last question in our mom life section is what does being a mom mean to you? And that's going to lead us into our next section.
For me, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like it's creating the life that I've dreamed of for like myself.
Okay.
So like before I mentioned how, I said I always wanted to have kids, but there was no thought behind it. And now that these kids are there, I have to put the thought into how I want to shape them as humans,
Hmm.
how I want to shape their life, how I want them to be aware, self aware, how I want them to be aware of issues beyond what their experience may be. There's just so many things. So, like being a mom is, for me, it's going to be my measure of how well I'm teaching and training these humans to
Hmm.
be successful in the world. Um, and then also like creating experiences for them. So I was thinking about it the other day, like, man, I wonder what is it that I'm doing today that creates Christmas for them. So when you
Right.
get that feeling like, oh, it's Christmas time, and my mom always does this.
Hmm.
And so like for me, I'll never forget hearing 'cause my sisters were in college. They went off to college when I was married, and so when they would come home, I make these seasoned pretzels, and
Hmm.
it ain't nothing but pretzels with a whole bunch of like but I only make them. I didn't realize that I was only making them during the holidays,
Yeah.
and so every year everybody was like expecting that, and I didn't do it either the year I was pregnant with Mason or the year after where I gave birth to him. And Henry said to me, "You didn't make any pretzels." And I was like, "Dang, I didn't know y'all was looking for them like that."
Yeah.
And so that thought translated for me into, man, I wonder like what is it that we are repeating, putting on repeat? What
Hmm.
traditions are we creating like for these humans? Same thing for
Right.
summertime. Like what is it that they're looking forward to that they know is summertime? And so like those childhood memories that you
Memories.
have, like what is it that I'm creating for them? Um, and so like that gives me meaning because it's like, oh, I could create that for them. Like, oh, it's
Right.
a
It's
bomb.
dope. It's dope.
So
Yeah. It's
that
dope.
means I'm gonna have all the fun with it. I'm going out of my way. I'm gonna do all
Yeah.
the extra things that people when they call me extra. That's what I'm gonna be extra for these two.
I
Um,
love being
and
extra.
so like for me, like that's what it is for me. It's just like creating life for them, memories for them, letting them feel,
Mhm.
helping them to understand what their feelings are.
We are at the last segment, and I personally think it is the most important. Um, is self. And I actually created all these questions, and sorry, speaking today with Bone, my husband, um as much as I put self, I mean, it should be top priority, but I put it up there. Like I'm like, and we were talking today, I was like, I am a mom. I embrace being a mom. I love being a mom. I love my children. Like it's ridiculous how much I love them, but I also ridiculously love myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that's why I think it is should be the top. So we're gonna talk about you, Toy, yourself. And my first question is, what do you want for yourself? And keep in mind for your answer, it's more of, and you can say what you like to say, but I do want to know as far as like um achievements, career wise, hobby wise, and also it could be like I guess just what you want, how you want to be, who you want to be. So
So, what I'll say to that is, I read somewhere, I do a lot of reading. I have finally like admitted to myself that I'm a reader. I like to read. I like to consume information, knowledge, wisdom especially. And I came across this thing that challenged me mentally for months, where it was like, who are you outside of the hats that you wear?
mm,
And that floored me. It stumped me because I couldn't answer that question. If
mm-hmm,
you were to say, who are you? I'm a mom. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. I'm a wife. I'm a,
mm-hmm,
business title, business, now executive director at Wildflower Alliance,
yeah,
whatever. I could give you all of my titles and the hats that I wear, but like at my core, aside from all of that, if you were to remove all those titles, like who is Toya? That's what I want for myself is to
mm,
know who she is
right,
always.
mm-hmm,
I want to know her as she's evolving. I
mm-hmm,
want to know her as she like where she's come from. I want to stay in touch with
yeah,
Toya, not Toya Mims. Okay,
mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna say this. I want to stay in touch with Toya Sharika. That's my middle name.
Okay,
Toya Sharika is who I always want to
yeah,
stay in touch with, not Latoya Mims, not Mommy, not
yeah,
Latoya Mims, CEO, whatever my title is in whatever space that I'm showing up as.
mm-hmm,
I always want to continue to know who I am, the evolving, because I'm evolving always and
right,
accepting of the evolution. That's always a really hard place for me, is when I'm changing. And
mm-hmm,
because that means that the people around me are changing and
yeah.
things like I'm growing and it's becoming uncomfortable.
Okay, let me see what's next. Um, so we're coming to the end. I kind of want you. My last question is, how does it feel to be a CEO or a founder and CEO? But I do want to. I basically want you to tell everyone how it feels to be a founder and CEO, but also about the Wildflower Alliance, so that they are informed. They can find you and all those good things.
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk about the Wildflower Alliance. So, um, first, let's kind of talk about the Wildflower Alliance, then I'll tell you about how it feels to be a CEO. So, the
Okay.
Wildflower Alliance is our nonprofit that was kind of birthed out of our journey of being parents of a child with a disability. Our eyes was open to so much. We encountered people that had the same experiences that we were experiencing, regardless of what their socioeconomic status was, whatever their race was. It didn't matter. There was no discrimination as it related to the typical things that you typically see people get discriminated against for.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started this. This is our baby that we're growing. And so the Wildflower Alliance is meant to be an organization of resources for families of children with disabilities. We want to create community. Because one of the first things that if you talk to any parent of a child with a disability, even if that parent was aware or familiar with a disability before having a child with a disability, you still feel alone. You feel alone
Mm-hmm.
because of the social circle that you built up around you no longer understands what your journey is and your
Yeah.
experience is, and it's forcing you into another path. And so that's lonely. That's very lonely, very isolating. It's very hard financially. It's very frustrating because you encounter so many barriers socially,
Mm-hmm.
educationally, in healthcare. It's just so many things that you go through. And so, what we're hoping to do is kind of bridge the gap, number one, to communities that are at a disadvantage with
Okay.
as it relates to access to resources. I'm hoping to bridge that gap, bring that the resources to them, giving them access, letting educating them and knowing them what their options are, educating them on what their rights are, because a
Okay.
lot of families go through schools and have their civil rights stamped on, so it's just like making sure that people know what they need to know on this journey, making sure that the child with the disability has what they need to thrive. But in order for that child to have what they need to thrive, the parent has to be okay. So we're taking
Hmm.
essentially an holistic approach to children with disabilities. Because if you think about it, Harper couldn't be where she was if I was still struggling with postpartum anxiety.
Right.
Couldn't, because even though she has grandparents who care about her, they don't know what her options are. They don't know what her rights are. They don't know what's out there. So it takes that parent being whole and then being that advocate for that child,
Hmm.
sure that they have access to that. And then creating awareness in spaces where there otherwise is no awareness. Most people are not going to encounter disabilities until later in life. One thing that people don't realize about the disability community is that this is a community you could join at any point in your life, whether that's a child, adult, or elderly. At some point, you could join this community. You could wake up tomorrow and not be in your right mind, and now you have a mental disability,
Hmm.
an intellectual disability. You can have a car accident, and now
Yeah.
you're paralyzed, and now you're disabled. So it's just that people are thankfully leading lives where they're not in those situations, where they're not forced into this community, that they're so far removed from it that when
Right.
they do encounter it, they don't know how to respond, they don't know how to react. And so the best thing or best response or reaction that they give is to ignore. Or if you think about politicians, you're making decisions for people that you know nothing about.
Right.
And so it's really for the Wildflower Alliance, I want to bring awareness, not to the disability community, but I want to take it to the community and create awareness there. So, like, I
Hmm.
think I gave you one of my ideas is to have a moms group of all moms. So,
Love that.
moms with typically developing children or able-bodied children can get with these moms over here and see that our journeys are the same. It's just our approaches. I have a few more healthcare. So while I'm frustrated about this, you're probably frustrated about something else. I'm
Hmm.
not going to take away from what your experience is or what your journey is on motherhood. And if we can stop undercutting people because it's like, but you could never understand what I'm going through, try to understand what I'm going through. I'm
Right.
frustrated because this child, because what you're handling, I might not be able to handle. And for
Hmm.
sure, what I'm handling, you might not be able to handle.
I agree.
There is a common ground. We're both caring for children that we
Hmm.
brought into the world.
Exactly.
And so if you could start to like make people think about it from that aspect,
Hmm.
I think that we could start to what I tell people is, I want to plant little wildflower seeds in people's
Oh.
minds that will grow
Yeah.
and change how they perceive and how they interact with people with disabilities. So that's ultimately what the Wildflower Alliance is here to do. Um, and as the CEO and founder, I never thought I would be a CEO or a founder of anything to this magnitude, but how
Yeah.
it feels is so shocking, the level of support and the level of awareness that I've already brought just through my own journey.
Hmm.
Whenever you think of people who lead nonprofits, you think, oh man, they know so much and they have so much this and that. And really, I just started this based off of what my experience was with my child. I'm
Right.
not even a person who has a disability, I'm just the parent of one. And so I'm still offering you only a little snippet into what the journey is like for someone who cares for the person with the disability. But imagine what that person's challenges are when they
Hmm.
become an adult. And so It's really shocking though to see the level of awareness that I've created just from my own hands, just from my own mind.
That's amazing.
You
Yeah.
know, how big the impact has been already and
Hmm.
how huge my reach has been.
Hmm.
I was looking at some of my insights for my social media accounts and it was just mind blowing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting 3,000 people to my page. Like, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, I'm reaching
People.
3,000 people.
Mhm.
Um, it was just, it's mind boggling to me that
Yeah.
I would ever be this person. It feels great to know that I've tapped into a level of strength that I otherwise never knew that I had, but I've always naturally been doing. I've always wanted to make sure when I'm communicating or conversing with someone in
Hmm.
any capacity that they receive the message that I'm
Right.
trying to give them, because in communication, even in a text message,
Serious. Yeah.
you misread my tone. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, that's how I read it, but help me understand it the way that you
Yeah.
meant it to.
Intended. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what it feels like. I love it
No.
though. I love it here.
It's
I'm
exciting.
starting to embrace it, and it's taking off, and I'm excited. I'm ready.
Yes, be ready. I love it. I was gonna say it's crazy, like sitting here doing this. I'm like, we're doing it.
We're finally live in here.
Crazy.
Yes.
But it's dope. Let's see. So thank you for taking the time to fill us in about the Wildflower Alliance. It is a beautiful, it's super beautiful. I love it. I love that you're doing it. And like I said, like 2 weeks ago, I feel like 2 weeks ago, I told you I'm like, I'm proud of you. Like, you're doing it. You're doing something that is so fulfilling and we can all see it. So thank you for meeting with me, and we'll make sure to put all of your information below so that everyone that watches the video, shares the video, can find you and all of the amazing things that you are doing. And I want to close this out by asking the viewers a couple of questions or a few questions that they can leave below in the comments, because how fun is that going to be to, have a whole community, after we post this episode, we can talk about anything and everything. I have a couple of questions. Toy, do you have like a question that you'd want to ask?
For the viewers, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, what is it? Is it about? Is it supposed to be about something that was discussed tonight,
It
or?
could be about, yeah, something. It could be, yeah, anything. And we, yeah.
So I'll say, what is something, if you were to look around in your life, in your own personal circle, in your own personal sphere of life, um, who have you ignored because you couldn't relate to them?
Mm, okay. Typing. I like that one. Okay. And I have two questions. Let's see. What do the mothers out there, and I'll open it up to fathers as well, because I feel like fathers, dads play such a pivotal role as well. I believe in fatherhood.
Absolutely.
Um, what do you love most about being a mom? What do you love most about being a dad? What do you love most about being a parent? You might not have the birth, all kinds of parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that might be parenting, taking care of a child. So, what do you love most about that? And also, I'm going to advocate for ourselves in the relationship with ourselves is, do you see yourselves only as a parent, mom, dad, uncle, grandmother, grandfather? Do you see yourself only as that, or is it just a part of your life? So, those are the questions we will leave you with. And again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.